Welcome to the next FitDoc podcast. And so I have a very special guest today. Her name is Juliana Halloran, and she is a nutritionist, pro bodybuilder, personal trainer, lifestyle coach, and more. And we are going to talk about how women can optimize their health at any age. Welcome to our podcast. I have a very special topic today. I have this passion about, helping women feel and look better longer. So as my career, obviously, as you know what I do, is I help people look better. But I think it's more to that. I think there's actually more to life than just kind of looking good in your own body. But the confidence is one thing, but really it's about health. And so if you follow me, you understand that I love health and fitness. It's a passion of mine. I'm a pro bodybuilder as well. My wife is as well. And it's our lifestyle. And I feel like I need to preach it to the world and stand on my soapbox and have people around me that believe in it and bring them onto my podcast and kind of spread the secret sauce to anti-aging and longevity. So most of my patients that are going to be working with me are typically around that my age. It's in the mid-40s. And so, I think there's this underappreciated aspect about the aging process, especially for women. And my special guest today, her name is Juliana Halloran. She's a good friend of mine. And we've known Juli I call you Juli, I'm sorry, but Juliana. But we've known you for 10 years now, Corey and I. And we met you, basically, Corey's first coach was in the same gym as you. And then we kind of transitioned started working with you, and you were her second coach ever. And got her into the bikini, and then we transitioned to figure. And so Juliana has been a pro bodybuilder in bikini. She's a certified nutritionist. She is an athlete at many levels. You've been training like CrossFit and all these. I don't even know how many more disciplines you know how to do. But a very, very, very experienced, been training for clients, not just to get ready for bodybuilding competitions, but really just lifestyle. And I think your practice has kind of evolved. We'll talk a little bit about that. And that's one of the reasons, the biggest reason I wanted to bring you on, is kind of talk about the evolution of how your journey has taken you up until now, and how you can spread your vast experience and information and knowledge to help people. Talking about you, let's talk about your background. What kind of got you into, I guess, the fitness? I know I think I remember hearing you saying you're in track in high school. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. You brought me home from Cali. I love it. Yes, it started at a really young age. I started running track when I was 7 years old, got into sports in middle school, high school, did all of the above, volleyball, basketball, led me to playing pro basketball in my 20s, and did half marathons, triathlons, and I started getting really curious. I learned at a very early age that food is fuel. When I ran one of my first half marathons, I remember hitting a wall and not understanding what was going on. And before we had all Google and all that fun stuff now, all the great resources we have, just trying to find my way on how I can optimize my performance, which led me into personal training in my late 20s. So I was in a corporate job, and I started falling in love with the gym and started working out. So my bodybuilding career came in my early 30s. And I've been doing it now for 15 years. And it was just one of those things where I was curious and I enjoyed working out, but I also knew that nutrition was a big part of it. I didn't realize how big it was until I started competing, because even the years leading up to bodybuilding, I thought I was doing all the right things, even with my food. But when I got into bodybuilding, which is it's an extreme sport when it comes to nutrition, because we have a very strict diet, I realized, wow. And that was an opportunity for me to also learn more about my body. And boy, did I learn a lot. And I was ready to, I'm a student of life. So I went back to school. I have a degree in psychology from University of Houston. And then I decided, I need to know more. So I went back and got my nutrition degree. And that's when it opened my eyes. And I realized, this is science. And this is how it's going to help me in my career, how I can help my clients, because that was something I had that other trainers didn't have, was about nutrition. You can tell your clients how to eat, but when you really break it down and what food looks like, how it affects your body, then you can really make some transformations.
The relationship, we had this conversation, John, over here about the relationship with food.
Yes.
I mean, it is, in many ways, food is a drug, and I want you to comment on that, because I think it's just so important that people understand that, like, we have, especially here in the Western culture, we have such good food, and it's so tempting, and it's such a comfort, almost a comfort drug. People feel better. They get that, that dopamine and serotonin release when you take that, under stressful event and stuff like that. And so, but I think you really said this perfectly, just the way we think about food, how we need to change it.
Yes. So the relationship with food, and this is when I coach my clients, we really have to look at the type of relationship we have. Are we doing it for pleasure? Are we doing it for comfort? Are we doing it to reduce stress? Stress is a big part of it as well, because when we can't control all the outside forces, when you have your boss coming after you, you have your significant other, you have the children, you have all these demands. So what's the one thing that will make us feel better? Food. It's going to give me a dopamine hit. You said it. It's like a drug. It's going to release that dopamine. You're going to feel good. And the better something tastes, the more sugar, the more fat, the more we're going to want it. So now you're taking in some food that not only is releasing dopamine, you want to go back for more. And now you're spiking blood sugar. You're increasing your blood sugar, and then you're crashing, and then your body's like, I want more. It's like, I need another hit. So when I talk to my clients, we have to establish their relationship with food, and I coach on building a relationship with food where looking at it as nourishment, not just as comfort and pleasure. There's a time for that. We get together with family. We have birthday parties. Right. We're in a culture. I stepped off of the plane, walked into the airport, and my senses were filled with all of the restaurants. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm just like, all of a sudden I'm craving all kinds of things that I normally don't eat. I stick to I have a regimen that I follow every day, and because I look at food as fuel. So when we start looking at food and asking, I like to say, look at your food. Is it going to get you to your goals, or is it going to inflame you, set you back? Is it going to look at it in long term? How is this going to affect me long term? So once we can start doing that, I tell my clients we should absolutely have a conversation with your food. Like, all right, is this going to help me, or is it going to set me back? And once you can start doing that, then you will start making different choices, better choices, healthier choices, and then you'll start nourishing your body. Our body's a temple. And we're the only ones that controls what goes in it, not anybody else. We have influences all around us. And that's why it's also important to have someone who supports you. If you're deciding to go down a healthy path, then you want to make sure that you have a support team, and that includes everybody in the house. And that's another variable that we deal with when coaching clients. Like, okay, who's in the house? Who's eating what? Right. So, but establishing that relationship with food and changing it so that it's going to be helpful. And so that you want to be around for long term, then we got to start looking at what we're putting in our body and taking care of it.
Right. Yeah, you only get one body. You got to take care of it.
Yep. It
is such a powerful aspect of our culture, especially here in the United States, of the food and our relationship with it. And, for me as a dad of two daughters, like, just, how we eat, Corey and I eat, we eat very, very healthy, we do enjoy ourselves, obviously, in social events, stuff like that, going out to my girls and everything like that. But they're watching what we eat. They don't eat the same stuff we eat, but hopefully, when they get a little bit older, like right now, they can get away with it. But maybe when they get older, they'll understand the value and the importance of what nutrition can give you, like in the long run, right? But those families, I see that I feel like it's being like obesity being bred. This is like one of those taboo talks that people get kind of upset about talking about, but obesity is a pandemic. It is a pandemic, people. And, who's responsible for it? It's not the government. It's not the government. Like, there shouldn't be laws about it. We have the food. It's just a matter of us making the decision that, food is not, not should be treated as a drug. Yeah, she uses nourishment, just like you said. And then you're just changing your lifestyle, changing your priorities in life of, incorporating, exercising into your lifestyle, better food selection, food portion controls, right? So it's definitely a struggle for our culture right now. And that's the reason why we're doing this podcast, is hopefully we can educate people and maybe inspire you to make a better food selections and, eat a little bit healthier, maybe exercise. It'd be great. But Going back to you and how, as you mentioned, bodybuilding is an extreme version of, I would say most kind of competitive sports and stuff like that. What has it given you in a positive way? Because right now there's a lot of, negative stuff about bodybuilding, unfortunately, but positively, what are the positive things you've gotten out of bodybuilding? How it's changed your life?
That's a great question. I feel like I've gotten so many benefits out of it, multiple benefits. Not only do I feel great, celebrating my 48th birthday today.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. But sometimes I look in the mirror and I'm like, really? Are you 48 today? Yeah. And it's like, yeah, but bodybuilding has conditioned my body to be strong and healthy. I have strong bones, strong muscles. In fact, I believe bodybuilding saved my life 3 years ago when I fell off a cliff in Mexico.
Yeah, remember you told me that. It's crazy.
Walking away from a fall like that and, the doctor saying, whatever it is you're doing, don't stop doing it. Keep doing it. And I knew it was bodybuilding. And people fall off a curbside and break bones all the time, so I know that contributed. But it's also taught me how to appreciate my body and nurture it. And so I do want to be here till I'm 100. Yeah. I plan on that. So I do watch everything that I eat. Bodybuilding taught me what inflames me and what doesn't. Because when you go on something that extreme, and I know you can attest to this, and you come off it, then everything you put in you're hypersensitive to because you've cleaned your system out. Imagine having a clean slate, right? And then trying to put in foods that are inflammatory. Our body's going to get upset, and it's going to throw signals at you: indigestion, gas, all those signs where people are like, oh, I have all these symptoms and signs, my gut is off. That's your body talking to you and saying, hey, bud, we need to make some changes.
You nailed that right on the head. I'm telling you, like when you're in prep and you're deep in the prep and you're eating the same food every day and it's cooked food and it's clean food and there's no chemicals in it, and then you have that couple days afterwards and you eat whatever you want and your body just freaks out. And it's just all the inflammatory stuff in the processed food, all the fats, and that's it. That's the proof in the pudding right there, and it's all around us, unfortunately. We're just surrounded by it. But, I think hopefully we can inspire people to kind of start changing their food choices, don't you think?
Yes, absolutely. And it's a choice. You just said it. It's a choice, making healthy choices. And I have learned when I meet people who come to, for my help, that they didn't learn what healthy is. A lot of times they have cultural backgrounds where they ate a specific way. I grew up in a house where it was rice and beans and tortillas with all of my meals. You've got 3 starches all at once. Yeah. And then, I'm a proponent of the blood type diet. I love using it as a resource. So having the resources that can teach you and guide you on what you should be eating, that's the first step. Mm-hmm. Taking food allergy testing and seeing what's going to compromise your health. So when we're serious about our health and what we're putting in our body, you want to take the necessary testing and steps so that you have a starting point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. Let's kind of walk through the evolution of, the aging woman. So let's talk about the 20s. Like, I think in the 20s, I've been with Corey now for 25 years. And then, what she ate when she was in the 20s definitely is not what she eats now. It's definitely, our diets have definitely changed dramatically, since, our 10-year career in bodybuilding. But I think as younger women can kind of get away with things a little bit more so, like drinking and, alcohol and drinking like 3 or 4 margaritas are full of sugar, before you go to bed, and, not as exercise as much. But there's also now a social pressure of women not, gaining weight. But, when you're younger, you tend to have a faster metabolism, don't you agree?
Yes.
Maybe you don't have to exercise as frequently. You can get away with it. When you're kids, like my daughters right now, they can do whatever they want. They can eat. They don't exercise really, and they look great. But as you've aged, kind of talk about just a little bit about how women can hopefully make some better life choices in nutrition and exercising as you go from 20s to 30s. And then we'll catch up to where we're going to really focus on going into the menopause ages, right?
Yeah. This is great. I love this. I get to work with a variety of women of all ages. I've had a couple of teenage girls and I have a couple of 20-year-olds, and I do witness that their metabolism is fast. When in our 20s, our hormones are in full effect. They're working on all cylinders. We're optimizing, so that allows our metabolism to work at a high rate. So you're right. we don't have to do as much. Now, if you start exercising in your 20s and making healthy food choices, then imagine what you can do with that. But I'm also learning that, there's a small percentage of women that are more young girls are getting into the gym, and I love that, like women empowerment, getting stronger, because we're going to need that strength training. I go back to my 28-year-old self every day, and I thank her for starting me on this journey of bodybuilding, because I was working out before. I was going to the gym, a couple of times a week, but I could get away with it. I'd go on trips to Miami and Vegas and eat all kinds of bad food and not gain a pound. But as we get older, I noticed that wasn't working so much anymore. So when I became a trainer and I started learning, okay, well, exercise is definitely going to be, part of the formula, but I wasn't too invested in the nutrition part until I became a bodybuilder. But yes, so as we get into our 30s, things do start to slow down. In fact, once we hit 35, our hormones start to diminish. It's like a slow drip where we're losing our hormones, but we don't pay attention to it because we're still doing the things we were doing. It might not be a lot of weight gain in the beginning, but as we get into our 40s, that's when it really starts to slow the brakes down. And it's not just metabolism. There's other hormones involved, like our cortisol and our insulin. Those two, along with thyroid, those three, the trifecta, those are the ones that really affect women. And after we hit 35, that's when we really need to pay attention.
Right. And it's such a critical age. 35, I think that's when you were having kids, and then you add in the life stressors of having children. Hormones are just, hormones are very much a fundamental pillar of how our bodies are aging, right? Especially for women. Women are so complex.
We are. Going back to being in our 20s, we have our cycle. Our cycle starts as teenagers. Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So we've got this 28-day cycle. So we have 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, 2 weeks where we're feeling great, strong, our hormones are low, estrogen's pumping out, progesterone, they're working together. Those are the two sisters that are working together. Estrogen's helping you build your muscle. It's an anabolic hormone for women. As for men, testosterone is their anabolic hormone. We still have testosterone, not in the quantities that men have it, but when you have your estrogen and progesterone in that second phase of your menstrual cycle, in your luteal phase, that's when hormones start to go low and we start feeling the PMS symptoms. And when a woman who's in her 20s and 30s can manage that, and I highly recommend women, you start journaling, writing down what you're feeling, there's great apps out there that you can also use, that you can optimize your health and fitness even more when you are empowered knowing what's going on with your cycle. Men have a 24-hour cycle.
That's true.
We need 28 days here.
Yeah.
So, and you've got 3 women in your house, so I'm sure you already know the effects of all of that.
Yep.
So knowing more about your menstrual cycle can definitely help with that. And then as we get into our 30s, things start to fluctuate. And also hitting on the topic of the stressors of having a family and having kids. It's another thing. Women's bodies change after having kids. So that's another thing that we need to think about. And we also put ourselves on the back burner because everybody else comes first. And when you're not doing anything for yourself in your 30s, like going to the gym or meal prepping or prioritizing, you're in a hurry, you want to do it fast, food on the go is going to be our best thing to do when we have so many other things going on. Because women of today are working, they're being mothers, they're spouses, they're taking charge, and they're running the household.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you made a great statement. You got to make it a priority. You got to make it a part of your life. I think people just kind of get caught up in their just busy lives of work and family and stuff like that. But, it's so important just to put your body as a priority. You only get one body, and you got to make it last for decades. And the idea is you want to, as you get older, you want your body to actually be younger than your stated age. So, case in point, look at this. Like, she's 48 years old, people. She looks amazing. She looks like she's barely over 30. But the secret sauce, again, this is the secret sauce of longevity, and it is taking care of your body through better nutrition, what you're putting into your body, and then exercising. And so you're just a perfect example, and that's why I love having you on this podcast to talk about it, because you're just the perfect example of what the long-term commitment of making better choices in your food and nutrition, and also an exercise regimen in life. So your experience going into, through motherhood, and now you have kids that are, already adults now, and now you transition into the 40s now. And so things are starting to change, right? I think this is I previously talked about in a previous podcast, but it's one of those topics I think it's just not talked about enough. And the information associated to it is, it needs to be more public. And that's why social media to me has really been a great platform to educate people. And that's what we want to do here. So you personally are going through this transition in life for women that all women will go through. And I just want to kind of talk about the physiology of it real quick. As a physician, I kind of understand things, been taught things, through the science of it and the physiology. And the reality of it, basically, is that, women are born with a certain number of eggs. That's it. You get a certain number. And then every month you put one out and then it goes away. And so there's this inevitable loss of the egg cells. And so that comes with the hormones associated to nurturing those egg cells every month. And so at some point in every woman's life, they're going to go through this phase called menopause. So when that happens, it can be different for everybody. We were having a conversation earlier today about, when does that happen for most people? I don't know. I think I agree with you. I think, if you start, puberty earlier in life, you're probably going to have menopause a little bit earlier in life. I don't know how many decades it is, but if you start later, then maybe it's going to start a little bit later for you. And there's some women, as you pointed out very, clearly, that there's a percentage of women, I think what you said, 20%, that have no symptoms of menopause. And those are the really lucky women.
Yeah.
But I would say the vast majority of women go through it. There's ethnicities associated that have higher symptoms of certain aspects of menopause. It's going to be different for every woman. But it needs to be on your radar. And that's who I'm talking to. I'm talking to these women out there. You're in your 40s, maybe your late 30s, and you're starting having some symptoms of, sleep changes and mood changes, and, your cycle's starting to go off, and then you're blaming it on really a high stress, environment of life. But underlying, you probably have an issue going on that's more hormone related. So I don't want to put you too out there as far as your personal experience, but I do want you to kind of give me some insight of what you started noticing first, and then now where you're at now.
Oh, I'm happy to share. When I talk about this, I always say I feel like I got slapped in the face and kicked in the gut all at the same time. I never once did it occur to me that I'd be coming close to this transition. And perimenopause can start as early as your late 30s. It just depends on the woman. Everybody is different. There's no one size fits all on when it's going to start, but I was a late bloomer, started my period when I was 14 years old. So I kind of tied that into, okay, well, turning 47, it was in August before, turning 47, where I started feeling off, like something wasn't right. Now, doing as many competitions as I had and training for competitions for almost 15 years, I woke up one day and I didn't want to go to the gym. That was my first sign. Like, I'm not feeling right. I'm not feeling good. I also started feeling irritable. My emotions were up and down, and I didn't understand what was going on because nothing in my life I felt at the time or even now was stressful. I felt like I have a good life. I'm happy. I'm in a wonderful relationship. Why am I feeling this way? So I started doing my research because that's what I do, and started looking into putting my symptoms of what I was feeling, because a lot of women first will notice like there's weight gain. Now, because I've conditioned my body so well and I continue to exercise and I continue to eat healthy, that I have it under control. So for all my ladies out there, if there's one thing I can tell you now, don't start tomorrow. Don't start when you start feeling symptoms or have that excess weight. Start now, because it's the most important thing you can do for yourself, because then you'll get to a point where it's going to be a lot harder. So those symptoms that brought on anxiety and everything, I got all the emotional aspect in it. It's almost like a woman going through PMS, which most of my life I had no PMS symptoms. Mm-hmm. I couldn't relate to the women that were like, oh, I can't go, oh, I have cramps, I can't do this, I can't do that. And I'm just like, why? What's wrong with you? And of course, I get it all at once as I'm aging and realizing like, oh, all these symptoms that are feeling, it's like you're going through PMS all the time. Mm-hmm. My progesterone was low. So I went on that deep dive, got my blood work done. And so the first thing I did was online Thrive Labs. Mm-hmm. And they weren't really too concerned with blood work. They went based off my symptoms, which are the ones that I just talked about. But But when I did get my blood work, that's when it showed, okay, my progesterone's low and my estrogen was still okay, and then my testosterone was low. Okay, so these are the first signals. So getting blood work is definitely one of the first steps, so you know at least where do I stand with this, and do I need to take steps, to improve, or, there's definitely solutions out there. So once I started doing that, then I decided, well, I'm a girl who wants to fix the problem now. So I got on the creams. So there's creams out there. So it was a progesterone and testosterone cream. For about 7 or 8 months, I waited. They said it's probably going to take about 2 to 3 months before you feel better. And I waited, nothing. So then I went to a different practitioner, more blood work, and then I was put on testosterone injections. And they took me off progesterone, and they put me on estrogen, which was not the right thing to do. And another few months were nothing. And they started me on a very low dose of testosterone, which I like. You want to take it easy. Everybody's different. And this is a choice. Not everybody's going to want to go the route that I took. Right. So now I'm with my third provider, and I was just telling Corey this morning, I finally feel good again. Like, I've been excited about working out since last week. I'm like, I might do another show next year. Because for the last year, the last thing on my mind was, what? A show? I don't think so. I don't even want to go to the gym. But I kept going to the gym. No matter how bad I felt, I reminded myself, that fall that took me down, I'm like, you're alive because of what you were doing. Don't stop now. Don't let your emotions get in the way, because we're going to have bad days. We're not going to want to go to the gym. We're going to want to just sit on the couch and watch Netflix. I get that. We're going to want to go and eat junk food. It happens, especially when your hormones are off, cravings increase. Insulin's out of control. Cortisol is high. So there's just a cascade of events that start happening when your sex hormones are off. So they're your chemical messengers. It's like the boss deciding not to show up for work, and all the workers are just waiting around. Like, there's nothing to do. We have over 30 trillion cells in our body. They all have a specific job. But if the boss doesn't show up, they're not going to work. So it's almost like the shop shut down. Yeah. I felt like I was trapped in my own body. I just didn't understand what's going on. But now that I finally found a formula that's working for me, I feel so much better. And I was even dreading my birthday. It's the first time in my life I'm like, oh my God, I want to have this birthday. But then, now that I'm here celebrating and getting to see my family and my good friends, I feel good. Even just my general well-being, I feel so much better, because I would sit out in my backyard. I'm like, what is wrong with me? Why do I feel this way? And there's a lot of women that I talk to that don't do anything about it. And I just push through it. I'm not trying to push through it for 10 more years.
I remember I was talking to someone about this, but generations ago, like I guess my mom's generation, they didn't talk about it. They didn't talk about it at all. They just kind of suffered along, going through it, and then now it's being more talked about, which is a good thing. And so I think there's options, just like you said, that to help women get through this transition, into as they age into life. The mood and the sleep, that was all messed up for you as well?
Yep, all of it, all the above. Yeah. So, and now I am getting better sleep, but I was fortunate. I say I'm fortunate because I'm not having the hair loss or the hot flashes or the menopause that the women get. So, but I mean, I was determined, like, I worked really hard on my body the last 15 years. I wasn't just going to let it be. Yeah. And there were a lot of times where I just didn't want to do anything, but you've got, your mental state is really important. You've got to, and I made an agreement with myself. We all should be making agreements with ourselves when it comes to our health and our fitness. So for those that say that they don't have the time, make the time.
Yeah. You got to make it a priority.
You have to.
I think the average, woman, I think is, the main symptoms is their body starts changing, that they get that kind of more, that tummy area that just gets fuller and bigger, and they just feel like they're gaining weight all of a sudden. I get a lot, because I work with a lot of my patients in that age, right? And they just feel like they tell me like my body just changed dramatically, like within a year. And I get all this midsection, I can't get it off. I'm decreasing how much I'm eating, like calorie wise, but I'm still gaining weight. And they get so frustrated, and I think the reality of it is probably likely associated to the hormones when they're around this age, right?
Absolutely. And
that these three hormones really do control really everything as far as the hormone cascade around the whole body. Talking about serotonin, dopamine, cortisol. They're all interacting with each other, and how it affects your metabolism, the thyroid hormones, all of it's all interplaying together. And so once those three guys are out of the room, then everything just kind of goes haywire. And so trying to find a balance, right? Trying to find a balance in the hormones as you age to kind of be more like this, rather than like menopause is like it, it's kind of just your hormones are kind of sputtering because things are kind of going away, right? And that is you want to kind of just kind of go more like this, and then you'll be more stable and plateau as you get past that age. But that's the hard part, right? That transition is really hard for women, and thankfully I don't have to go through that. But I kind of am going to go through it, right? Because I have my wife, and my wife's going to go through it, and I've kind of made a personal kind of mission to learn everything I can about it, and make sure her transition into her later years is as smooth, symptom-wise, and as healthy as possible for her. Because I think we both want to stick around for quite a while. The part of like testing, like I've encountered this. Like women are like, well, I don't know where to get tested. What do I do? What hormones I get tested for? Who do I go to? Do I go to OB-GYN? What do I do? And so, I would like to kind of get you to kind of comment on that.
Yeah. So our OB-GYNs, they're amazing. They're wonderful. We probably had them since they, delivered our children, but they weren't trained properly to help us manage this. And it's we're an underserved community. We are. I mean, we're half the population. By 2025, over 1 billion women will be in menopause or going through it. That's a large number. And a lot of women don't know what to do. So getting the testing is really important. Now there's things that are popping up where you can be tested. I was looking here in Houston, and there's definitely a lot of clinics where people do specialize in that. And you want to make sure you're getting with doctors or nurse practitioners that know what they're doing. So, but, you want to make sure when you go to your doctor, a lot of times they're just brushing it off. They want to give you anxiety medication or an antidepressant. This is normal. This is what you're going through. This is what I'm hearing from my clients. And luckily, my OB-GYN, I called him. He's here in Houston. He doesn't take on patients anymore, but he specialized in that. And it was so great to have a conversation with him because I felt like, okay, he gets it. He understands, so he helped guide me a little bit. I couldn't work with him, so I had to go find someone. I actually used someone online, and they're virtual. They do telehealth. They did my blood work. And I noticed in all three, the first provider, they weren't concerned, Thrive Labs wasn't concerned with my blood work, but the two of them, they had two different panels. But the most important thing is getting your sex hormones checked. Mm-hmm. You want to check your cortisol. You want to check your thyroid, because your thyroid is going to be working together with your cortisol and your insulin. Mm-hmm. Insulin is going to be the hormone that promotes the most fat gain. Mm-hmm. When your insulin's off, when you have insulin sensitivity or insulin resistance, that's when our body starts to store fat the most. And that usually happens when our estrogen is off. Mm-hmm. So getting those hormones checked.
And that goes back to the midsection thing, right? You start getting more internal fat.
Yes.
Which has different receptors, which, a little side note, let's talk about that real quick. So insulin resistance as we age, right? That's one of the big reasons why our metabolism slows down. It's because I think the insulin receptors are being focused in different concentrations in your body. So a great case in point is people who exercise and are exercising daily, and specifically weight training, your muscle cells are putting these insulin receptors on the outside of the cell and going like this, I need some sugar. So it pulls sugar out of the blood, goes in the receptor, and the muscle pulls it in. The muscle cell pulls it in. And that's for people who are exercising consistently. And then that's hence people who weight train, like you. The majority of the glucose that's in your blood system, your body knows, like, this lady's going to kick my butt tomorrow. I need to get more glycogen stored in my muscle cells because when I have an exercise or workout tomorrow, that's going to be hard again. So your muscles are hypersensitive to insulin, right? And that's a key aspect of as we age, our metabolism slows down. People who don't exercise, this is what happens, is that, and you start, let's say you're gaining weight, but you're not eating a whole lot. We call what the hard gainers or something like that.
Hard losers.
Hard losers. That's what you call them. Is that they're not eating a whole lot. They're eating like 1,000, 1,500 calories, but they're still gaining weight. And how does the mechanism, physiology of it is exactly that, is that the fat cells have all these receptors to grab the sugar. So every time you're eating, your fat cells are like, I need that because this lady's going to starve me tomorrow. Right? Mm-hmm. And so you have been sensitized or this insulin sensitivity, your fat cells are more sensitive to to sugar itself. And so your fat cells are constantly to get those calories. Your muscle cells don't anymore because you're not exercising. And so the priorities of your body are just, your body's trying to survive. That's really the reality of it. It's trying to survive the next day. What's this person going to do to me tomorrow? Not going to eat a whole bunch. Great. Any calorie I can get, boom, right to fat. And that's the mechanism of, getting a little bit fatter but because you're not exercising. So and we shifted over into lifestyle and longevity, training. And that is, you have to eat more and you have to exercise, people.
Yes.
So let's talk about that. That's really, really want to get to that because I think that's the secret of longevity, especially so for women going into menopause and then after. It's a secret sauce to longevity and feeling better is you've got to exercise, and more specific, I would say weight training and resistance training. Not so much being I'm not telling you to be a bodybuilder. I'm telling you to weight train. And I'm a disciple of a well-known author on this topic specifically. Her name is Stacy Sims. Give a shout out. Love you, guy. And I got you on her stuff. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I haven't asked you about it recently, but I'm sure you watch most of her YouTube channel. You read her books.
Yep.
I'm a huge fan of her, and I think she gets it. And I am just preaching everything she says. And I think that's the secret to women aging healthier and living a longer life. So talking about let's talk about the exercise as women age and getting into menopause and how important it is for exercising.
Yes, very important. I meet a lot of women who've never strength trained before, and that's going to be the first thing you want to do. I love Stacy. I love how she says, you got to lift heavy shit. You just do. You've got to cause a stimulus to the muscle if you want it to grow. And if you want your muscles to grow, you've got to eat. So women, we've been taught the less you eat, you'll lose weight. That happens initially, but then your body does get to a point where like, well, is she gonna starve me? When is my next meal coming in? So when the body gets accustomed to chronic low calories, then of course you're going to start storing more fat. Now, if you're exercising, as you pointed out earlier, then your body is going to start using that muscle glycogen. So when you do eat carbohydrates, which you want to have carbohydrates and protein together so that you're actually feeding the muscle, fueling the muscle, going back to nourishing the body. So as you lift weights, those are the things you want to do. You want to lift weights, and I recommend minimum 4 days a week. 4 days of strength training is what you're going to need to do. If you don't know how to strength train, hire a coach. Hire a trainer that you can have in person because that's going to be really important. Spend 6 months to a year with a trainer. Learn how to lift, and then you'll be able to go on your own. That's about how long I have clients when I've trained personal training with them. After about 6 months to a year, I'm like, you don't really need me anymore. You could do this on their own. So, right. But they get to decide if they want to stay or not. So not only are we doing strength training, we also have to incorporate our cardiovascular training as well. And I'm a big proponent of high intensity training, especially sprint interval training. The cool thing about sprint interval training is that you get to mix it up. So it's not very boring. You can do it on a bike. You can do it on a stair climber. You can do it on a treadmill. You can go outside and run hills. And research has shown that when you incorporate sprint interval training versus low intensity steady state, that you're going to lose more abdominal fat than you would. They had a research group where and these women were actually type 2 diabetes women. They were over the age of 59. They were already in menopause, and they both did twice a week. One did sit, one did LISS, and they both lost fat and gained muscle. They didn't change their diet, but the ones that did the sit training, they're the ones that lost the most abdominal fat, which is the most important area you want to lose because that's where we have our visceral fat. That is a health havoc right there. It just wreaks all over us, and it causes cardiovascular problems in the future. And so that's what we want to target. So if you had to decide on sprint training or steady state, go for the sprint training. And you want to do that at a minimum of 2 to 3 times a week. And I recommend doing it after your strength training. So in a perfect day, you get to the gym, you warm up the body, you strength train. 45 minutes is a good amount of time. Try and get at least, anywhere from 6 minimum exercises to 10, depending on the body group, and then go and do your sprint training. 20 to 30 minutes. So expect to spend at least an hour to an hour and a half, and that should be scheduled in your calendar books.
Scheduled every day. It just doesn't take that much time a day. It really doesn't. When you think about how many hours you're awake, how many hours you spend on Netflix, how many hours you spend on social media a day, think about it. Comes down to choices. People. So make your health a priority. And in my opinion, you do it right first thing in the morning. Get it over with, and it will set the tone of your day. It really does. You have the energy. You will sleep better. I guarantee you're going to sleep better. But getting all that blood flow going and then stimulating the hormones associated to exercising, you do get a dopamine release from training. I mean, that's why I do it every day. I love it. And like, it's just part of my mornings. I have to do it. So going back to, the importance of strength training, we're not telling you guys that you have to be bodybuilders. It's not true. You're not going to gain like muscle like a bodybuilder. That is physiologically impossible for most normal people. It takes years and years and years for bodybuilders to kind of gain the muscle. It takes time. But as you age, and we were talking about this earlier, as you age, after the age of 40, you're losing like 1% of muscle mass every year for the rest of your life. But you can slow down that process by weight training. The weight training, adding that resistance to the muscle keeps your tendons strong. Your tendons are attached to your bones. Your bones stay stronger. As a woman, that's so important because you're prone to call it osteopenia, which is a lot, more brittle bones as you age. So keeping your bones strong is super important. And it just it's the secret sauce. It's the secret sauce of longevity. Like, I don't understand what people don't understand this. Why the government isn't preaching more, diet and exercising and nutrition, like focus on that rather than kind of, supporting programs for obesity. And it's hard for me to accept, but that's why I have you here, and that's why we're talking about it. So let's talk about nutrition as we age, right? What kind of changes would you recommend someone in their 40s or kind of about to get maybe in the menopause and, they feel their metabolism starting to kind of change because just, your body aging? What kind of nutritional steps would you recommend to first get started with? Like step one, what is the easiest thing to do? How do you get started?
Look at what you're eating in a day, because protein is going to be huge when it comes to our strength training. And also it's going to help boost our metabolism as well. It also promotes, balanced blood sugars and satiety as well, but helping you to feel full. And one of the things that I see is a lot of women are under eating protein. That would be the first thing. Look at how much protein you're eating a day. Take a tally. When I do make a recommendation, and it could be about, for every gram of protein per pound of body weight or your goal weight. That's pretty standard. There's other formulas that you could formulate and see depending on your age, your height, your weight. But, if you're a 150-pound woman, then try and aim for 100. If your goal weight is 130, then try to get 130. And then break that down into 100. How many meals are you eating a day? 2. Well, then you're going to need to get 65 grams of protein a day. Well, that's impossible. So then let's have 3 to 4 meals spread out throughout the day. The second step, eat on a schedule and stick to that schedule so that your body's not guessing when the next meal is coming. And you're also balancing your blood sugars. Then, of course, we want to look at our carbohydrates. So we want to stay away from all the white starchy carbs, unless you are bodybuilding or you are going to the gym, 4 to 5 days a week, and your body needs those type of starchy carbs, to help build muscle. Then yes. Other than that, you want to look at your fibrous carbs. Lots of plant vegetables. You want to eat whole food diet as well. Getting away from the processed foods, the things that have chemicals and preservatives and additives, because those things are going to matter. When we put those things in our body, those also disrupt our hormones as well. So reading labels and making sure that you can pronounce the words on the back of the label, that's important. Yeah. So, and eating healthy fats. And healthy fats can come in the form of olive oil, nuts, and seeds. And you can also get it through avocado. So, making sure that you have those 3 macronutrients on your plate every day in the right amounts throughout the day. And I know a lot of people do not want to track their food. If you're trying to aesthetically change, then you want to know how much you should be eating, because calories in, calories out, it works to a degree, but as we age, women aren't trying to sit there and count their calories and their macros. I do have some that do, and they like to be, empowered with that. But for those that don't, I would start with 3 meals in a day and then see how you're feeling in between those meals. If you're hungry, then eat. But when you eat, make sure that you have protein and a carb together. And don't eat naked carbs, meaning I wouldn't recommend having a carb just alone. You want to try and lower that glycemic hit to the body, because we're spiking our blood sugar. But if you pair it up with a protein, then you're lowering that glycemic load.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
and your blood sugar isn't spiking as high? Because we get cravings. So when you go and have granola and
donuts.
Yes. So when I have women who are like, well, I'm having granola and yogurt, is that a good snack? Well, no, it's not, because it's high in sugar, it's spiking your blood sugar, and there's not a lot of protein to slow down that glycemic load.
I think one aspect of carbohydrates that I've really learned from bodybuilding is glycemic index. You know, the complex carbohydrates are much better as far as keeping your blood sugars low and your insulin's low. Insulin is a very, very powerful hormone. And so when you're spiking it like really, really high and your body's trying to control your blood sugar with insulin, it is something that can get out of hand very, very, very quickly. I always tell people when they start asking me questions about, diet tips and stuff like that, like go into your pantry and go look at all the stuff you have that's like processed, most likely, like packaged, and cookies and all this. It's just amazing. Chips, like all this stuff is just so heavily processed. Like that in itself, you get rid of all that and kind of go to really just kind of cooking your food. And it changes I think it changes a lot of things about your body. It decreases your inflammation associated to processed foods. It changes your microbiome of your intestines, which is a whole nother podcast we can talk about. But our intestines have this bacteria in them, and we call the microbiome, and it has a critical role in how we absorb foods and the inflammation associated to our bodies. So, once you kind of change your diet and you're able to kind of readjust the microbiome, I think overall, you'll feel healthier. There's so many studies out there associated to this right now that we've learned about the microbiome, and we still don't know everything about it, which is, to me, fascinating.
Yeah.
But I'm sure you focus on that as a nutritionist in your history. Can you touch on that real quick?
Yes. It's like I call it the second brain. Mm-hmm. And it controls a large part of our immunity as well. So when our gut microbiome, as you said, is not functioning properly, then our immunity is low, and then there's inflammation, and then that just wreaks havoc on our body as well. So having that balance by making sure that you're eating the right foods and not putting processed junk food into your body, then you are going to have a healthier biome. There's two particular bacteria in the body, firmicutes and bacteroidetes. And those two are the ones that do most of the control. And one of them loves sugar. And they found that if you have more of the firmicutes inside of your gut biome, then your cravings are higher, inflammation is higher. So you want to try and have the other one, the bacteroidetes. So going in and making sure you're having foods that are giving you prebiotics and probiotics, having balanced meals, that can help really establish a healthy gut biome.
Love that. Well, I think we talked about a lot. Don't you think?
Yes, we did.
Man, but we can talk about so much more. We could talk about this for hours, actually. But let's kind of summarize. Let's talk about let's talk to someone out there who is, hopefully we kind of shook their cage a little bit, and we're inspiring them now to eat healthier and to exercise. Let's talk about the three first steps to success, to make this new lifestyle change. Mm-hmm. What would be your first step that you would say?
Evaluate what's in your kitchen. Look in there, like you said, go into your pantry, pull everything out, and start asking the important question, is this going to nourish my body, or is it going to inflame my body? And start taking steps on incorporating a healthier whole food diet. Mm-hmm. Okay, second, get to the gym. If you can't get to the gym, start walking. Make a goal to walk 5,000 steps, then 8,000 steps, but you got to move. I like to give the task, if they're not going to the gym and moving, after each meal, depending if you're at work or you're home or the weather outside, go for a 15-minute brisk walk. Mm-hmm. Do that 3 times a day, and now you're getting 45 minutes of walking in, starting there. So. Well,
I think after, even then, you can find great exercise just doing body weight. Mm-hmm. But you can work out in a hotel. You can bring some bands.
Yeah.
There's really no excuse.
No.
There is no excuse. I'm sorry. There just isn't. There's so many resources out there on YouTube and social media. There's apps now. You have an app on training that'll take you through a 30-minute, pretty intense workout, just using your body weight and or bands or maybe a little light weights.
Yeah,
but it is definitely one of those things that is very accessible. You just have to make that commitment. but you got to make the commitment to exercise frequently through the week. So I agree with Juliana. That you need to do at least 4 times a week. What's your third one?
The third thing, sleep. Getting enough sleep. That's a big part of it as well. We want to make sure that our body's recovering and that we're fresh and ready for the next day. So 4 to 6 hours just isn't cutting it at all. And, getting yourself into your circadian rhythm is very important to your health as well. And when you have that, and when you're in control of that and you're getting a good night's rest, you're going to be able to take on the day.
I think sleep is underappreciated for sure.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of people that work really hard and busy life schedules, and they get 4 to 6 hours of sleep, and I definitely can personally attest to that. My wife was, when we were in our bodybuilding career, she was training when she had a full-time career. She was getting like 5 hours of sleep for a couple years, and her body really didn't start responding until after she left her full-time career job, and then she got the full 7 hours of sleep, and then her body really started evolving. And we both kind of sat back and realized, like, wow, like that was a big change. It was for her, was the sleep.
Yeah.
Massive difference in her physique, her overall mood and health. All of it just went exponentially up. And so I'm a busy person too. I'm also, you ask me like when I had to get to sleep, I sleep 7 hours a day. But for us, it's we're very, very, very scheduled. We have a very strict routine. Like when I'm awake, every minute's pretty much accounted for. It's just something I choose to do. It's my choice. But again, during my day, I make exercising a commitment of high part of my day, first part of my day actually, and then nutrition comes after that. Committing a better lifestyle for my longevity, because I want to be able to enjoy my grandkids and have fun and hike with them and be that granddad that can do everything with them still. Yeah. So this is an awesome topic. I'm going to definitely come back to it again, because there's so much more information we can talk about in helping women and even men to age, healthier and live a longer life. It's all about longevity here. So again, thank you so much for coming on to the podcast. I learned so much.
Thank you.
And it's been just a great time that I hope my followers and your followers will get some information from. Please let everybody know where they can find you. I know you have a website. You have a fitness app too. And she has an amazing collection of recipes, healthy recipes. Yes. So where can they find you?
My website is julianahalloran.com. They can also find me on Instagram, juliana.nutrition.coach as well. Yeah. Same one on TikTok as well. Come join my tips. I'm always sharing tips, recipes, exercise routines, and come slide in the DMs and ask me a question. I'm always happy to help.
Yeah. She's also one of my preferred nutritionists / coaches. She's on my website, actually. You have a whole page. I've had a whole page on my website for probably about 5 years now.
Yeah.
Because I believe in her, and I think she really cares about her patients. She's kind of specializing. We've kind of been talking about this. She's specializing in women going into transition to menopause, getting women past that age. But she's an amazing coach, very well experienced, and cares and loves what she does.
I do.
I love people who have passion for what they do.
Thank you.
So anyway, thank you again for following us on the FitDoc podcast. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Don't forget, put a comment down. If you want to hear something else, let me know. We are always taking questions and comments. I appreciate your time for following us, and stay tuned for the next podcast coming up.